There is a truth few people ever see clearly. Women do not simply speak or act from what they feel. They live in constant emotional translation. Most women spend enormous amounts of energy translating their authentic thoughts and feelings into what they believe others can accept, tolerate, or handle. It becomes an endless inner calculation. What am I truly feeling? What will be acceptable to express? How can I share this without being judged as too much, too emotional, too needy, or too demanding? This constant adjustment shapes nearly every interaction. I have seen this play out often. A woman feels disappointment, but instead of voicing it, she swallows it and says, "It's fine." She feels hurt but presents herself as unbothered. She desires closeness, but disguises it as indifference. This is what I mean by emotional translation. Authentic feelings are reshaped into softer, more palatable versions, less likely to provoke conflict, less likely to risk rejection. Why does this happen? From childhood, women are taught to soften themselves. They learn early that full expression is too much. Strong feelings are dismissed as dramatic. Assertiveness is labeled as bossy. Genuine needs are framed as needy. And so, over time, emotional editing becomes second nature. Instead of saying, "I'm angry," she says, "I'm hurt." Instead of saying, "I need this," she says, "It's okay if not." Instead of a boundary, she offers a request. This translation is not harmless. It creates a disconnect between inner truth and outer expression. Words say one thing, but behavior says another. She says it's fine, but grows distant. She says whatever you want, but resents the decision. She agrees, yet quietly suffers. The consequences of translation. This pattern appears everywhere. In relationships, she agrees to casual dating, though she longs for commitment. She avoids asking for support out of fear of being too much. At work, she accepts lower pay without protest, afraid of being called difficult. She says yes to extra responsibilities when her heart says no. In friendships, she agrees to plans she does not enjoy, silences frustrations to avoid conflict. In family, she carries emotional burdens without voicing that she is overwhelmed. Every time, her authentic need is minimized into something safer. The Stoic reflection. In my experience with Stoicism, I have learned this. Suffering often arises not from reality, but from our judgment of how others will perceive it. Women, shaped by constant messages that their feelings are excessive, learn to bear the weight silently. They bend their truth into what will cause the least disturbance. Yet in doing so, they betray themselves, and then wonder why they feel unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. The Stoic way teaches that truth must be lived with steadiness. To deny one's inner voice for the comfort of others is to create disharmony, both within and without. When emotions are translated rather than expressed, relationships grow clouded. No one can truly respond to what has not truly been spoken. Instead of saying, "This is unacceptable," many women learn to say, "I'm probably overreacting." Instead of saying, "I disagree," they say, "I see your point, but maybe." Over time, they become masters of emotional diplomacy, constantly softening, qualifying, and reshaping their authentic experiences into something more acceptable. The internal process. The inner sequence often looks like this. Feel the authentic emotion. Immediately ask, "Is this acceptable to express?" If not, search for a softer translation. Express the translated version. Feel frustrated when others don't truly understand. This cycle produces several problems. For women, it disconnects them from their authentic feelings. They begin to doubt whether their emotions are valid. They build resentment when their softened messages are misunderstood. For others, it creates confusion. The words say one thing, but the energy communicates another. They cannot respond correctly because the real need was never voiced. For relationships, intimacy weakens. Authentic connection requires authentic expression. When translation replaces truth, no one truly knows the real person. The cost of translation. I have seen this lived out for decades in relationships. A woman spends years saying, "Whatever you want," while secretly holding strong preferences. Eventually, she feels as if nothing she desires matters. This is the cost of emotional translation. We lose ourselves, and the bond with others suffers. The impact on relationships. Nowhere is this pattern more destructive than in romance. The mixed signals problem. When emotions are translated, inconsistency appears. She says she's fine, but her body language betrays otherwise. She agrees to plans but shows no enthusiasm. She insists she doesn't need anything, yet her energy speaks of emptiness. This isn't manipulation. It's the product of fear. Fear of being seen as too much. The emotional labor issue. Women often shoulder the burden of managing the emotional life of a relationship. They remember the dates, maintain family ties, check in on moods, and carry the invisible weight of connection, but rarely do they ask for this role. Instead, they silently assume it and then feel unseen when it isn't recognized. What begins as silent caretaking often turns into unspoken resentment. The support-seeking challenge. When in need of comfort, women often avoid direct requests. They tell a story hoping support will be offered. They display stress hoping someone will notice. They give hints, praying their needs will be intuited. Yet unspoken needs are often unmet, leaving them feeling neglected. The conflict avoidance pattern. Direct confrontation is often seen as cruel, so emotions are translated into softer forms. Anger becomes passive aggression, hurt becomes withdrawal. This is not fine is disguised as it's fine, but avoidance only deepens the wound. What partners can do. If you love someone who translates her emotions, here is what helps. Ask follow-up questions. If she says, "I'm fine," ask gently, "Are you sure? You seem upset." Create safety for truth. Welcome her honest feelings, even if they're difficult. Notice the energy behind the words. Pay attention to tone and body language. Encourage directness. Tell her, "I want to know what you truly think. I can handle your honest feelings." What women can do. If you recognize yourself in this cycle, the Stoic path offers guidance. Practice truth in small steps. Express one authentic feeling per day, even if it feels uncomfortable. Notice the moment of translation. Pause and choose to express the original emotion instead of its softened form. Ask directly. Instead of hoping others will guess, state clearly what you need. The Stoic reflection. From my experience with Stoicism, I've learned this. To hide your true state is to deny yourself twice, first in feeling and then in expression. Truth carried with steadiness is never weakness. When you speak authentically, you risk conflict, but when you remain silent, you guarantee disconnection. The stronger path is not to bury what is real, but to carry it with calm discipline. Only then can relationships rest on clarity instead of confusion, and intimacy on truth instead of illusion. Common translations and their real meanings. I'm fine often means, I'm hurt, but don't feel safe expressing it. I'm angry, but I've been taught that anger is not acceptable. I'm overwhelmed, but I don't want to burden you. I disagree, but I don't want to start a conflict. Whatever you want often means, I have a preference, but I'm afraid to seem demanding. I want you to consider what would make me happy. I'm testing whether you care about my preferences. I don't want to be responsible for the decision in case you don't like it. I'm probably overreacting often means, I have a legitimate concern, but I've been told I'm too sensitive. I need you to validate that my feelings make sense. I fear my emotions will be too much for you to handle. It's not a big deal, often means, it is a big deal to me, but I'm minimizing it to protect myself. I don't think you'll take it seriously if I say how much it matters. I'm testing whether you'll care, even when I pretend it doesn't matter. I don't want to be difficult often means, I have needs, but I fear expressing them will push you away. I've been made to feel guilty for having needs before. I want permission to express what I truly require. How to respond. When you recognize emotional translation, the Stoic path is to respond with calm presence and curiosity. Probe gently, say, "It sounds like there might be more to it. I'm here to listen." Validate the feeling. Respond with, "It makes sense that you'd feel upset about that." Create safety. Remind them, "I want to understand how you really feel, even if it's complicated." Do not punish honesty. When someone speaks their truth, answer with appreciation, not defensiveness. Red flags of translation. Be aware of signs that translation is happening. Words and energy do not match. Passive-aggressive behavior replaces honesty, saying yes while showing reluctance. Frequent "I don't care" responses, apologizing before sharing a preference, minimizing language like "it's just" or "it's probably nothing." These are signals not of manipulation, but of fear. Creating space for authenticity. The solution to emotional translation is to create environments where truth feels safe and valued. For women, this means practicing steps to reduce translation. Start small. Express one genuine preference per day. For example, "I'd actually prefer Italian food tonight instead of whatever you want." Notice the pattern. Pay attention to the moment before you translate. Ask yourself, What does my authentic feeling want to say? Use I statements. Speak in clarity. I feel, I need. Instead of disguising your truth, remember this truth. Your authentic feelings are valid and worthy of expression. Stoic reflection. From my experience with Stoicism, I have learned this. Suppressing the truth may create temporary peace, but it breeds long-term unrest. To edit our feelings for others is to fracture ourselves. To speak them with steadiness, however uncomfortable, is to live in alignment with nature and with reason. Authenticity is not chaos, it is order. It clears the fog of translation and allows relationships to rest on truth rather than illusion. Remember this: your authentic feelings are valid and worthy of expression. When you begin to notice yourself translating emotions, set boundaries around that instinct. You can say, I'm going to tell you how I really feel about this, and it might be different from what you expect. This clarity is not weakness, it is strength. The kind of strength that Stoicism teaches, to live in truth rather than in fear of how others will react. Practicing self-validation. Your feelings are valid even if others do not immediately understand them. In my practice of Stoicism, I have learned that external approval cannot be the measure of internal truth. To constantly wait for others to affirm what we feel is to hand over our freedom. To validate ourselves calmly and without exaggeration is to remain in harmony with reason and with our own nature. For partners, creating safety for authenticity. When someone shares real feelings, respond positively. Thank them for trusting you with their truth. Ask direct questions. What do you actually want? How are you really feeling? What would be most helpful right now? Do not punish emotional expression. Avoid calling feelings dramatic, too much, or overreacting. Instead, show interest in her inner world. I want to understand how you experience things. This demonstrates that you value her authentic self, and above all, be patient with the process. Unlearning translation takes time. Celebrate the small steps toward authenticity. For everyone, building authentic communication, direct communication. Demonstrate that honesty is safe by being direct yourself. Validate before solving. Sometimes people need to feel heard before they need solutions. Create regular check-ins. Ask, how are you feeling about us? What do you need that you're not getting? What's been on your mind? Celebrate authenticity. When someone shares real feelings, appreciate the courage it takes to be genuine. The transformation that follows. When women feel safe to express authentically, and when others learn to listen for the real message, everything changes. For women, this means reduced anxiety from constantly editing emotions, a stronger sense of self and personal identity, more satisfying relationships built on truth, not masks, less resentment from unexpressed needs, greater emotional intimacy with others. For partners, this means a clearer understanding of what is actually needed, the ability to give the right support in the right moment, connection that is genuine and grounded in reality, less confusion, less guesswork about emotions, stronger, more authentic relationships. For relationships, this means conflicts are resolved instead of stored. Both people feel truly known and understood. Needs are met because they are clearly expressed. Trust deepens through authentic sharing. Intimacy grows because truth is the foundation. Personal reflection. In my own practice, I have seen this transformation unfold. When I began to express my authentic feelings instead of editing them, everything improved. Yes, there were difficult conversations, but they led to genuine understanding and real closeness. My current relationship is the first in which I consistently say what I actually mean, and it is also the most fulfilling one I have ever had. He knows who I truly am, not just the edited version I once thought would be easier to accept. The fundamental truth. Here it is. Most women live in constant emotional translation, editing their feelings into what they think others can handle. Once you understand this, the mixed signals make sense. The I'm fine when something is wrong, the passive aggression, the resentment that builds when needs go unspoken. But here is the beauty. Once you see the pattern, you can change it. Women can practice authentic expression. Partners can create safety for honesty. Together, both can build relationships rooted in truth rather than translation. The goal is not to blame anyone for this pattern. We all learned it as a survival strategy. The goal is to recognize it so that we can choose differently. Final Stoic message. To the women, your authentic feelings are valid and worthy of expression. The right people will honor your honesty, not punish you for it. Start small. Be patient with yourself. Remember, authentic connection requires authentic expression. To everyone else, when someone trusts you with their real feelings, even when they are messy or difficult, treat that as a gift. Respond with appreciation, not judgment. Create space for people in your life to be genuinely themselves. Understanding this does not just change women, it changes people. It transforms relationships, communication, and our very capacity to live in harmony with others. Because genuine connection always requires genuine expression.